on the spring isolator, you want to make sure that the spring is seated to that on the bottom, and the same way on the top. There's another one on the top. You want to make sure those are flush against each other before you reinstall the assembly. Now we're going to reinstall the shock assembly into the vehicle. All you do is, push down on the suspension. You still got your bungee cords here to kind of give you some play, and then as you push down, you lift up and put the shock assembly in place. It does take a little bit of muscle though. Once you have the shock assembly in place, just go ahead and put these top shock bolts in place, just finger tight. You still want to be able to move everything around, but you don't want it, flying out or dropping out on you. Next, I again use the floor jack under the steering knuckle to help ease the suspension into place so that I can install the ball joint nut up here. And again, this nut's aluminum. Don't use an impact or anything on it. Get it started. You torque it to 35 foot-pounds, and once it stops at 35 foot-pounds, put your 18mm wrench back on it, turn it one more quarter turn. That's how you tighten that bolt, and the manual is very specific about that procedure. This is the torque wrench. There's our 35 foot-pounds. I want to do another 90 degrees. So let's see. You have to actually use another wrench to get some good leverage. That bolt's pretty tight. We'll set this in. Hook another wrench to it, give me some leverage. It's 90 degrees. Next, use your jack to help you get the bottom shock bolt lined up, and just tighten it down. Not fully tight, just snug. You actually want to put the torque on it after the car is on the ground. Again, that's an 18mm bolt, and then also using your jack you can line up, make it much easier to install your sway bar end link bolt, and that one's a 21mm. And that one you want to go ahead and torque. Torque should be 95 foot-pounds. Once you get everything buttoned up underneath, don't forget to reattach your speed sensor. Next, you want to go ahead and reinstall your tire. These lug nuts, I always start them by hand. Make sure they're threaded correctly. And then while the car is still in the air, I go ahead and put my torque wrench on them. The torque specification for these is 105 foot-pounds. So I'll go ahead and put the torque wrench on them and get them, snug, because you don't want to set the car back down with the wheel crooked. So set 105. 105. And then work in a cross pattern. So this one, 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 like that. So that they're tightened pretty even. One other thing you're going to want to consider before you lower the car down is that the suspension is going to be now 1.5 to 2 inches lower. Eibach claims 1.7 inches. When I've installed the whole kit, I'll take some measurements, but I went ahead and lowered the car down onto a 2x8 so that I'd be sure my jack could get out from underneath the car. And once you've lowered it down, you just want to come back and torque these top 3 shock bolts to 20 foot-pounds. They're 13mm. And then just snap the cover back on. There's one more thing you have to do to finish up the front suspension, and that's to go underneath it and tighten up the lower shock bolt. And you do this after the car is setting on its own weight. The only way I could get to the bolt was to drive up on some ramps, and as you can see, since the car's lowered, I now have to use a 2x8 as a mini ramp to get to the ramp, otherwise the front fascia, the bottom of that air splitter, scrapes. Now the torque spec on that lower bolt is 128 foot-pounds.